Hello everyone, welcome to a new On the Hoop video tutorial. My name's Philip and I have a totally fun and super cute in the hoop project that I'm going to walk you through today. Let's get ready to make this adorable Tooth Fairy Stuffy with a pocket on the back, ready for a tooth for trade for cashola. However, before we get started, I wanted to quickly thank everyone who has liked and subscribed and left me a comment on our previous In the Hoop videos. The channel's off to a fantastic start, all because of you, and it's so appreciated. I can't thank you enough. And as well, if you're new here, be sure to join us by hitting the like and subscribe buttons, and maybe even leave us a comment below about this project, things you'd like to see in the future, or even just say hello. It really helps us a ton. So up until now, our projects have been pretty simple. Check out our previous videos for our finger puppets and also our eyeglass cases. These two mentioned videos are great for beginners because they can be completed in one hoop. For this project, however, we're going to step it up a bit, as this one requires you to re-hoop 4 times. But don't worry, I'm going to walk you through the whole thing, and if you're just starting out to get into making in the hoop designs, you're sure to learn a bunch. And if you're a seasoned in the hooper, you're going to love this as well. Also, as a side note, I want to let you know that this project does require a 5x7 hoop. And I promise, not only is it fun to make, it'll be a major hit for your kids or grandkids or whoever, especially if they're around the same age as 2 of my kids. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and their teeth are falling out all over the place. And these stuffies tend to turn something a little confusing and scary into something fun. Also, these are wonderful items to sell at craft fairs or even online. Oh, and I haven't yet mentioned is where to get the file. You can go directly to allinthehoop.com and get it from there, and I'll also have a link to it down in the description. When you're at the website, be sure to check out our deal where you can get our entire website of In the Hoop designs for a one-time price. It's a quick and easy way to build an instant library of In the Hoop designs, and of course, this Tooth Fairy Stuffy is included. So let's fire up our embroidery machines and make this Tooth Fairy Stuffy. First, we're going to hoop stabilizer. Use tearaway stabilizer for this entire project. This project does require a 5x7 hoop later in the tutorial, but for step number 1, you can use a 4x4 hoop. Next, we're going to load into our embroidery machine the first file called 01 Tooth Fairy Stuffy Wings. And then I'm going to thread up a color for the wings. I'm using a pink felt for my wings, so I thought this purple thread would look nice. Choose whatever thread color you think will look nice with your wings. Now let's attach our hoop with stabilizer to the embroidery machine, and then we'll run the first stitch. The first stitch is a die line, and we're going to stitch it directly onto the stabilizer. A die line is used to show us where we'll lay our fabric for our Tooth Fairy Stuffy wings. Once the die line is complete, slip a piece of felt over the die line, completely covering it. After your felt is in place, run stitch number 2. Stitch number 2 is a tack down that will hold our fabric to the stabilizer. Once this is complete, run stitch number 3. Stitch number 3 is a decorative portion of the wings. Like I mentioned before, I'll be using felt for my Tooth Fairy wings, and I recommend you do the same. I'm going to use normal felt, but some craft stores carry an extra rigid type of felt that is great for this. After stitch number 3 is complete, remove the hoop from the embroidery machine and take it over to your workstation. Over at your workstation, turn the hoop upside down, and we're going to add a backing to our wings to give it a nice finished look. To do this, use a tacky spray, or you could even tape the backing to the back side of the hoop. Once the backing is affixed to the back of the hoop, we're going to return it to the embroidery machine. Run the next and last stitch that is going to hold the backing to our fairy wings. When finished, remove the hoop from the machine and take it over to your workspace. To finish off the wings, remove the project from the hoop and cut closely around the wings. Set these aside and we're going to use them in a later step. Now for the next step, we're going to make a cute crown for our Tooth Fairy Stuffy. Again, we're going to hoop a 4x4 with tearaway stabilizer. Load up our next file into the embroidery machine. This one is called 02 Tooth Fairy Stuffy Crown. I'm going to choose a thread that goes good with the yellow felt that I'm going to use for our character's crown. Next, let's attach our hoop to the embroidery machine. Now let's run the first stitch. The first stitch is a die line that's going to mark the spot where we will lay the fabric we will be using for our Tooth Fairy's crown. Once our die line is complete, go ahead and lay your fabric fully over the die line and then run stitch number 2. Stitch number 2 is a tack down and will hold the fabric to the stabilizer, and it will also make a nice outline to show us exactly how to cut out the crown. When this is done, remove the hoop from the embroidery machine and take it over to your workspace. Over at our workspace, we're going to remove the project from the hoop and remove the stabilizer and cut carefully around the outline of the fairy crown. Once this is done, set it aside and we're going to use it in a later step. Okay, we're doing great. Now we're going to make the backing of the Tooth Fairy Stuffy that includes a pocket for a tooth. This time we need to hoop up a 5x7 hoop. Use tearaway stabilizer again. Next, load the file called 03 Tooth Fairy Stuffy back into your embroidery machine. I'm going to load up purple thread and then I'm going to attach my hoop to the embroidery machine. Once that's in place, I'll run stitch number 1, which is going to create a die line that'll show us where to lay our fabric. For the front and back of the Tooth Fairy Stuffy, I'm going to use cotton fabric. There are tons of choices for this, so use whatever fabric you like for your stuffy. After this die line is finished, remove the hoop from the machine and take it over to your workstation. I wanted to add a word about cotton. If you're going to use cotton for your stuffy, especially if you're using these fat quarters like I am, I would highly suggest ironing these before you use them. Everything will look much better when you do. Okay, now that we've ironed our fabric, let's move back over to our workstation and work with our stabilizer that has a die line on it that we stitched in our last step. We're going to take our freshly ironed fabric and use either tacky spray or tape and affix it to our hoop stabilizer, completely covering the die line. Return the hoop to the embroidery machine. Now run the next stitch. The next stitch is going to be a die line for the pocket that is on the back of the Tooth Fairy Stuffy. After the die line is finished, lay a piece of fabric fully over the die line, making sure to cover it completely. I used felt for my pocket, but you can use anything. Now run the next stitch, which is the tack down, and will hold our pocket fabric in place. After the tack down is done, remove the hoop from the embroidery machine and take it over to your workstation. Carefully cut around the outline of the pocket and also remove the stabilizer to complete the Tooth Fairy Stuffy back. Set the back aside and we'll use it in a later step. Now we move on to the fourth and final step. For our final step, we're going to once again hoop tearaway stabilizer into a 5x7 hoop. Load up our final file called 04 Tooth Fairy Stuffy Final into our embroidery machine. Now I'm going to thread up black thread. Attach your hoop with the stabilizer to the embroidery machine. Run the first stitch. The first stitch is a die line and we're going to use it to guide us where we'll place our fabric. After the die line is complete, remove the hoop from the machine and take it over to your workstation. Over at the workstation, just like in our previous step, we're going to use a bit of tacky spray to hold our fabric in place to the stabilizer. Make sure the fabric fully covers the die line. Reconnect the hoop to the embroidery machine. Run stitch number 2. Stitches number 2 and 3 are the decorative parts of the Tooth Fairy Stuffy, meaning it's the eyes and mouth and arms and also the cheeks. These are done in 2 colors. First, I use black for the eyes and mouth and arms, and then for stitch number 3, I use pink for the cheeks and tongue. You can also cross-reference these colors on the included PDF sheets. The next stitch, stitch number 4, is going to be a die line that we will use for placement of our wings and crown that we created in steps 1 and 2 of the video. These stitches won't be visible in the end, so I just left on my pink thread to stitch these out. You will see that these stitch out on the left, right, and then top, marking where we'll attach our crown and wings coming up. When these are done, remove the hoop from the embroidery machine and take it to your workspace. Over at the workspace, note the die lines that we have on the right, left, and top. We can lay out our wings and crown over the die line to get a sense of how it'll look in our finished product. However, when attaching these, we'll need to have them facing inward, so you can see how I completely turn each of these inward and then affix them with tape. I also like to tape it all in the middle to help it stay in place. Once that's done, we'll take it back to the embroidery machine. Carefully attach the hoop to the embroidery machine. Run stitch number 4 that is going to tack down the left wing and secure it to the fabric. Then run the next stitch, stitch number 5. This one will hold down our right wing. And finally, stitch number 6. Run it now to hold down the crown. Now all of our extra parts are secured to the front fabric, and we can remove the hoop from the embroidery machine and take it over to our workspace. Over at our workspace, we're going to remove some of the tape. I decided to leave some of the tape holding down the wings and crown in the middle and remove it just from the edges. Next, grab the Tooth Fairy Stuffy back with the pocket on it that we made in step 3. Turn this backing piece upside down so that the pocket faces inward toward the front of the stuffy like I have. Center the back pocket around the mouth part of the front like I have here. After the back is in place, you can spray tacky to hold it down, or you can tape it in place, or you can even just lay the backing over it and not affix it and stitch it slow and keep an eye on it. Whatever you choose, after the backing is in place, let's move the hoop back to our embroidery machine. I'm going to add white thread to the machine for this final stitch because I would like it to match my fabric. Now let's attach the hoop to the embroidery machine and run our final stitch. This is the final tack down that will hold it all together. It'll also leave a hole in the side where we will be able to fill our stuffy with polyfill. For this step, it's also sometimes helpful to slow down your machine speed and keep a close eye on everything in case something goes wrong. However, I have faith that it's all going to be wonderful. Once we're done with this step, let's remove the hoop from the machine and take it over to our workspace. We are close to the end. You are doing wonderful. Over at our workspace, we're going to start by just removing everything from the hoop. Next, let's remove all of the excess stabilizer. After the stabilizer is all removed, we're going to cut around the shape of the tooth, leaving about 1/4 inch around the edges. You'll notice on the side is an opening that we'll be using to reverse the stuffy and also to add the polyfill. At this opening, leave a bit more than 1/4 inch, maybe leave about 1/2 inch or so, as this will help later when we go to sew up the opening. Now let's turn our Tooth Fairy Stuffy right side out. After our Tooth Fairy Stuffy is turned right side out, it's time to fill it with polyfill. Fill the stuffy with as much polyfill as you'd like according to your taste. And look at that, our Tooth Fairy Stuffy is all done and looks totally cute. The only final thing you will have to do is stitch up the opening by hand using a whip stitch or an invisible stitch, and we've made a separate video to show you how to do this. You'll find a link either in this video or down in the description. It's an essential skill you'll want to learn when doing in the hoop projects. Anyway, it's all done and you did great. Hey everyone, so I hope you enjoyed the tutorial in creating the In the Hoop Tooth Fairy Stuffy. Also, I really hope I made the project as easy to make as possible so that you'll have no problems making one yourself. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and I'll be back very soon with another fun project and video. In the meantime, please leave me a comment and tell me your thoughts and what you'd like to see in the future, and I'll see you soon when we release our next In the Hoop project.